Hi guys, welcome if this is your first time finding my channel, or welcome back if you're returning. My name is Whitney and I normally play and create builds in The Sims. In today's video we are going to be renovating the museum that came with Nordhaven in the business and hobbies pack. When it comes to renovations, I don't feel that the museum itself was bad. It's definitely not the worst build that whoever is responsible for creating the builds in the games has ever done. I've seen way worse builds, and as you'll see a little bit later, I really didn't change a whole lot of the exterior. I kind of actually like the idea of it being I feel like that maybe it was an original build, there was the super old building and they transformed it into a museum, and then they probably added on a more modern part later on, and I really like that kind of concept. I just felt like my main issue with this lot was that it really wasn't a whole lot to do, and that's kind of something I've noticed with Nordhaven in general. And I actually started the Very Veggie Legacy, and my founder, she lives in Nordhaven, and I just find that there really isn't a whole lot for her to do. And I think with this pack, Business and Hobbies, I think this was one of the packs people complained about because the world was really small. Well, it had less lots than we're really used to when it comes to expansion packs. And something that I noticed with Nordhaven is there really wasn't a whole lot of community lots, and I guess maybe what they were thinking that the businesses that they created, like the tattoo shop and I think the pottery studio, the museum, I think there's also a lounge, and I think there's this kind of bookstore cafe. I think that's what they included as a community lot, which kind of makes sense, but still I felt like there wasn't even a gym, and there's usually a gym in every single world, and I probably won't complain about that because like I said, there's literally a gym in every single world, so maybe we didn't need a gym. But I don't know, I just felt like there was something missing in this world, and I kind of feel that way about most of the worlds in the game. Lately have been really wanting to get into playing The Sims on my own time, off camera, but the thing that's stopping me is I feel like I need to create a world first. I need to completely renovate and change and add my own lots to a world first, and I'm currently working on a Willow Creek save file, and so hopefully once that's done I can get into playing The Sims on my own time. And I also do plan on starting a Willow Creek rotational gameplay, because I'm going to be I'm not only just recreating all the houses and community lots in Willow Creek, but I'm also planning on creating my own townies and playing with the townies that already exist in Willow Creek, and I think it'll be really fun. And usually the way that I typically like to play The Sims is usually I pick a town and I try to keep my Sims in that town as much as possible, unless it makes sense for them to travel and venture out to a different town. Maybe if they live in Willow Creek, for me it makes sense for them to be able to travel to San Moschino. Maybe it'll be a whole day trip or something like that, but for me it's not realistic for my sim who lives in Nordhaven to travel to Willow Creek or any other, because I feel like the towns like Willow Creek and Oasis Springs, for example, those are towns that I would consider to be based on American states or cities, but Nordhaven I feel like it's based on a European country. So it was really important for me, I feel to have things for my Sims to do and places for my Sim to visit. And like I mentioned before, Nordhaven is a bit smaller, so there really isn't a whole lot of space for community lots. And this is something that I've kind of mentioned before in past speed builds, but I personally like to kind of make my lots multifunctional, or that's what I consider them to be, because I'm also someone who doesn't really like having to sit through a bunch of loading screens. I don't think I would like The Sims to be open world, but I also don't have a whole lot of patience for sitting through loading screens. I feel like when I sit down and play the game, I have a specific limit on how many loading screens I can sit through before I get bored or my attention span runs out. Like I said, I don't feel like the original lot was bad, but one of the things that I kind of noticed originally, that it was really empty, and I kind of understand that because I think that they make the lots that come with packs. Like, I think there's like a thing where they can only have like a certain amount of objects, because it's basically to help people or gamers or simmers who probably don't have like the best gaming PCs out there. So I think it's supposed to like help it run a little bit better on their computer. I don't have like the best gaming PC, and I'm also not someone who's really good when it comes to minimalist like decorating and building. I'm definitely like a maximalist. I love a lot of clutter, and the reason why I like a lot of clutter is because it makes the air, like the space, feel lived in. And like I said, that I feel like when we go to community lots, they're basically like sets almost for us to play in. And I feel like having a lot of clutter and stuff like that kind of makes it seem like it's an actual, like it's been lived in. I also didn't limit myself when it comes to how many packs I use, and I understand that that can be like an issue for some people if you don't have all the packs. I also don't have all the packs. I think the last pack that I brought was business and hobbies, but something I have said that I wanted to do, I just don't know when I'm going to do it, because I feel like I have like a lot of ideas, but I can't build as fast as I get these ideas. But I do want to, take time to do more limited pack builds or like limited budget type of builds, but I will get to those eventually. So you can feel free to let me know what type of builds you want me to do. Like if you have like a specific amount of packs, you can let me know in the comments what packs you have, and I can maybe think of some build ideas based around those packs. Or if you have a specific budget for a build that you would like me to stick to, I'd be happy to consider that. This is a kind of like side tangent, but it's currently 12:48 a.m. at the time of me recording this voiceover, and that might not be late for some people, but that's pretty late for me. I'm usually in bed by 12. So if it feels like maybe this voiceover doesn't make as much sense as it should, or it seems like I'm probably talking a lot of nonsense, it's probably because I'm just getting sleepy, and that tends to be a habit that when I get sleepy, my brain and my words don't really sync up the way that they should, or the way that I would like them to. But I'm trying to be a lot more consistent when it comes to uploading on this channel, and I am determined to get this video out. But when I first loaded onto this lot, I felt like it had a lot of potential. One of the first things that I really felt about this lot was that it would make a really good wedding venue. I was really inspired by like on the outside of the original build, they had like these little canopy things with tables and chairs, and I was like, this would be a really cute location to have a wedding. And like I think I ended up having like the outside like area kind of be like a reception area. I also had like a bunch of other ideas for this lot, and I was kind of like wondering if I would be able to manage that, because like I said, I didn't really change the layout. Well, I did change the layout of this build, but I didn't really change a lot of the exterior. I kept that all the same, because kind of like in my mind, I don't know why I do this, but like I always create these little stories or like scenarios in my mind when it comes to these builds. And in my mind, I kind of saw like this, there was like this original building, maybe it was like some type of government building or like something else like that, and they maybe like transferred it to a different building, and they were like talking about like demolishing this building, but then they eventually decided to renovate it and turn it into a museum. And then over the years, they kind of like added on the more modern part, or the more modern wing of this build. And that's kind of like something that I tried to think about as I was decorating and building. I like, especially with like the art pieces, I was thinking, okay, this could be like a new modern piece. Oh, and this is like a piece of, something old, or a piece of history or something like that. I kind of like kept the kind of like same theme. Like they use like a lot of I don't even know like what the style would be. I don't know if it's industrial or whatever. I don't know those type of words, but I felt like I kept a lot of like the cement flooring, and a lot of the brick, and I guess it would be stone type of wallpaper. I kind of like went back and forth when it came to the inside. At one point I had started this renovation, and I kind of like took it way back with the interior, where like the original build, it kind of like had like older wallpaper, but I was like, that didn't really fit right to me. Like I feel like they probably really updated and like renovated this museum a lot. And another thing that I wanted in this build was I kind of wanted to make it into like a real like museum, where like in like most museums that you go to, there's usually there's like separate museums for different things. Like where I live in Virginia, we have a science museum, and then we have an art museum, there's like a children's museum. And so like those museums are dedicated to those specific things. So like the art museum is dedicated to like art. There's different types of art, they have different exhibits. I think usually there's like art that's like more, so like they usually have like a section for like more modern art, and then they usually have a section for like, you know, the older art. And then the science museum, they have like different themes every few months, they like switch it up, but it's like, I don't know, based on science and stuff like that. So I was kind of like thinking about that when it comes to this museum, and I really don't have my Sims visit museums all that often because there really isn't a whole lot to do. Like you literally tell them to come to the museum, and they like, I don't really do this, but you can like click on the paintings and tell them to look at it, but there's really no animation for it. They just go and like stand around the art. And yeah, they do have you know, usually they have an easel or like a workbench or something like that in the museum. So actually, do they? No, because I don't think they do. I think I'm thinking about like the actual, is there a difference between, I think maybe they do have the easel and stuff usually. I think they do, yeah. And I guess that would be the only reason why museums are worth coming to, especially if you're doing like a rags to riches challenge, or like how I like to do, where I start my Sims with 0 simoleons and they kind of like have to work their way up. And if they can't afford an easel, they might come to the museum to practice painting. That's kind of like what I did with the Very Veggie Legacy. Like at first she didn't have enough simoleons to buy the pottery wheel, so I was bringing her to the original museum all the time so that she could practice her pottery and use the pottery wheels at the museum. But I kind of, like I said earlier, like I see the community lots as like sets, and I really wanted to build up the set of like this being an actual museum. So I actually included there's actually 2 levels of the basement, because for some reason I also wanted to include a gift shop, which I'll explain a little bit more later. And then I also wanted to include like a little coffee shop area, just so your Sims can like get the most out of the build as possible. But I feel like if you want to, you can change the museum into a business. Like you can have your Sim maybe like have a Sim that owns this museum, and they can like charge people with the ticket kiosk, because I did include that in the build. So yeah, you can have your Sims have to either pay a fee to get inside, which is like how it usually is in most museums. Usually you do have to pay like some type of entrance fee, or like sometimes they just have like a fee, or some museums you can get in for free, but like if you want to see certain exhibits you do have to pay. But the only thing is, I'm not really sure, like if you keep the lot as a museum type lot, I do think that you can set up a wedding event for your Sims to come here and have a wedding. But I don't know if you could do the same thing if it was an actual like business type lot. And another thing about it being a museum, I'm not sure if the little coffee thing that came with business and hobbies would work. Usually with most vendor stall type things in The Sims, you can like hire someone, but I don't know if you can do it with this specific one. I would assume that you could, but if not, I guess that's another reason why it would be a good idea to maybe turn this lot into a business type lot. And then also you could use the little gift shop area that I created. I'm also not completely sure how it works. Like if you, like for example, if you don't want to own this museum and you make a Sim who owns it, like how would that work if you're not playing as that Sim but you want your Sim to come visit the slot? Like I'm not really sure how that works because I've never done that before. And like I said, I felt like when I was thinking about like what I wanted to do with this lot, I was like, that's kind of a lot. And I wasn't for sure if I would be able to make it happen. Oh, also, I almost forgot too. Like there's actual like an art like area, like an art studio area, because that's usually what's included in the museums is an area to do art. And I think one of the things that I kind of didn't do, and I don't know if I regret it, because there really isn't a whole lot of kids in Nordhaven. I think there might be like one little girl, but I didn't really, usually I try to like make most of my community lots children friendly, because I feel like there isn't a whole lot for them. But I don't think that I did that with this lot. Maybe down the line I'll like make something for kids, like I'll do like a little park or something. But with this museum, I don't know, I feel like I neglected the kids. But there are like plenty of easels, and I definitely had the party wheels included in this museum in the little art studio. And I think I also used the little workbench. I think it came with the artist studio kit. So basically there's just like a little art workshop area too. And how I was able to get everything to fit. I think I already mentioned that like the outside area, I was really inspired by like the little canopy things to include like a little area for weddings. I didn't put the wedding stuff outside, but I did make it so like the outside area is for, or would be suitable for like a little reception area. If you wanted to do that. And then on the upper floor of the museum, that's where your sim can get married. I included the little wedding arch thing upstairs, and then I also included like a room upstairs for your sims to kind of like get dressed up. For example, if you like me and you plan a wedding event, but then you remember that you forgot to get your sims like a wedding dress or like change their outfits for the wedding, then that's what that room is for you to like go and give them a makeover or whatever. And then like the main floor of the museum, that's where you'll find the art studio, the little coffee shop. And also throughout there's like different art pieces too, but like down in the basement is where I kind of created specific exhibits for the museum. So I was going through debug and I found a bunch of like these science painting things, and I was like, oh okay, I can do like a little science exhibit. And then I was trying to think of like what other exhibits could I do, and so I think I ended up doing like an exhibit that was, I don't know, I guess it was dedicated to like, I don't even know what that time of history was called. I don't think it was the Renaissance, but it was like, I don't know, like people were wearing like poofy dresses, and maybe it was Renaissance, I don't know. But I had like that dedicated area of like an exhibit for the museum. And then I wasn't sure what else I could do for like an exhibit theme. So the last exhibit theme was like kind of like inspired by like modern art and also like Asian culture, I guess you could say. Or that's what I was trying to go for. And I was using a lot of items from Snowy Escape, and I think also for Rent I used some items from that to kind of create that kind of exhibit. And then also in like the little basement area there's like a little gift shop, so if you do choose to run this as a business or change the lot type to a business, you can like buy like little pieces of pottery from the little gift shop. And I feel like the way that I kind of like created the museum, especially when it comes to the exhibits, I feel like it kind of like makes you want to kind of play that out a little bit, because usually, like I said, when I come to the museums, the only reason I go is to like use the art easel or the little workbench thing. But like I don't really have my sims like sit there and like look at the art, but I feel like maybe now I would. And I feel like this build would be really good for like that type of gameplay. Like if you just want your sims to have a place to go out and like you can pretend that you're going to an actual museum. And I think it's really fun sometimes to do like certain parts of gameplay that you don't usually do. Like normally I wouldn't send my sims to a museum and like click on the individual pieces of art and get them to like view it, but now I feel like I would. And I don't know if I said this or not, but the reason why I built this is because I do plan on using this build myself, and I hope that you can enjoy it as well. If I had to pick a favorite room of this entire build, it would probably be this one. The only thing that I might have changed if I could go back, or if I would go back, was to maybe include a children's activity table. But then again, I feel it's kind of fitting for simmers like me who usually play with young adult sims. You can kind of like pretend that they're taking a pottery or painting or woodworking class. This build also took me a really long time. I feel like probably like way longer than I planned for it to take me, and I think in the future I kind of want to set like time limits because you can't really see it because I usually edit it out, but I change my mind so much when I do these builds and I go back and forth all the time. And speaking of cutting things out, there was actually hours of footage of me working on this build that I actually cut out. For example, towards the end, you'll see me working on the actual museum exhibits. I start with the science themed exhibit and end up cutting out like the pre-20th century exhibit, and also like part of like the like kind of like my Asian inspired exhibit. I also cut out parts of like the science themed exhibit. Like I feel like what you'll see in this video is it kind of like taking shape, but I actually cut out parts of it where it was like taking its final form. Also, there was like some furniture that I couldn't find, and I eventually found it later on, so I kind of like changed things up a little bit then too. But ultimately, I was trying to keep this video to like a certain amount of time. I never feel like I have anything to say when I'm doing like speed builds, so it kind of makes me a little bit scary when the video gets a little bit longer than I really want it to be, because I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to fill up the time. Another thing that I probably would have changed if I would go back is maybe include more space for the exhibits. I kind of feel like in build mode when I was like trying to take the screenshots for the end of this video, I kind of felt like it was a little cramped. But I don't know, maybe I'll feel differently once I'm actually in game and I'm playing with my sims in the build. And I guess it's kind of also a good thing that I didn't make the exhibits any bigger than they are. Like maybe if I was to go back, maybe instead of like having all the exhibits on like the same level of the basement, maybe I would like include like 3 separate levels. But I feel like that would just, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's going to be a bit laggy anyway because there's so many objects in this build. And I feel like with basements, it kind of like messes up my game a little bit. So I know that if I did like several floors of basements, it would have made it even worse. But I'm really curious about how this build is actually going to work in game. I haven't play tested it yet, but I think I will be playing it like as soon as I'm done with this voiceover. I'm actually going to record another part of the Very Veggie Legacy. So I'll actually think I'm going to like put this museum in that save, and then I'll be playing with it and see how it works. But you can let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me build next. I have mentioned so many times that I actually have so many ideas and things that I want to work on. But again, I feel like it takes me so long to work on builds, which is another reason why I would like to kind of start setting time limits when it comes to my builds. Another thing I just forgot too, that some other things that got cut out of this video is that there is like a room that's on the second floor of this museum, which is kind of like, it serves as like a fitting room or like a dressing room for weddings, especially if you're like me and you plan like a wedding event and then you realize that you forgot to kind of give your sims a makeover or give them a wedding dress for their formal wear or whatever. Or maybe you want to change a sim's outfit, they showed up to the wedding looking crazy and you want to like change their style. There is a room that's on the second floor of the museum for that. And also, I didn't cut this part out of the video, but I just didn't record it. I got to a point where I was just like ready to be done with this speed build because I felt like it was just taking me forever to finish it. And I had to do the landscaping because I deleted all the landscaping, and I feel like that's like my least favorite part. No, actually bathrooms are my least favorite, but landscaping is like my second least favorite part of builds, and so I saved that for last because I didn't want to do it. But that's not all that I didn't record. I also didn't record like me doing the like reception area that's outside, but you will be able to like see everything at the very end of this video because I did include screenshots of everything or different areas of the museum, so hopefully you'll be able to see everything. But again, I hope you enjoyed this video and this build, And before I end this voiceover, I thought maybe I could leave you guys with some kind of positive message. And it seems kind of like corny. And I know like this is something that not everyone believes in, but I think I want to like pull an oracle card for you guys. It's going to be from my 4 Agreements oracle deck. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the 4 Agreements book. It's a really nice book if you haven't read it yet. I have not read that book in like a really long time, so I probably would go back and read it. But yeah, even if you don't believe in like things like oracle or tarot cards or whatever, hopefully you'll be able to get something at the end of this video that makes you feel a little bit better or think about something. So I know you guys cannot see me, but I did shuffle the cards and 2 cards actually came out. I usually only take 1 at a time, but I felt like the cards that came out really matched well together. And basically the 4 agreements, there's 4 separate like categories of agreements. I'm not going to go into detail about all 4 of them, but the 2 cards that came out go with like the part of the book that talks about being impeccable with your word, which is basically being mindful of what you speak onto yourself, onto others, and onto the world around you. Again, this kind of like sounds a little woo-woo, but I am a believer in what you say can, come to be in your reality. But I will tell you what the cards that came out were. And the first one was express your love, and there's actually a message on the back, and it says impeccability of the word can be measured by your level of self-love. If you love yourself, you will express that love in your interactions with others, and that action will produce a like reaction. And then the second card was become a white magician. And the back of it says, all the magic you possess is based on your word, and you can cast spells all the time with your opinions. You can either put a spell on someone with your word, or you can release someone from a spell. And yeah, with these 2 cards, I feel like it's very clear that it is trying to tell us to be mindful of how we speak to ourselves and about ourselves, and even what we think about ourselves too, because I feel like our thoughts are very important as well. So I guess the message that is meant to end this video is to cast nice things onto yourself as you go about your day-to-day. It is very easy to tell and convince yourself of all the ways that you are not deserving of certain things, or why you are not worthy of love, even if it's just loving yourself. And even if that's not something you believe in, I believe that really does kind of like reflect back onto the universe. And if you're constantly telling yourself that you are not worthy or you're not deserving of certain things, even if you're not telling yourself like that specifically, I feel like the way that we are pretty much conditioned to talk about ourselves is to kind of like talk down on ourselves instead of talking ourselves up, and constantly pointing attention to and nitpicking all of our tiny little flaws. So I feel like these cards are kind of like bringing us to kind of like start pointing out the good things, our good qualities, our good traits, the reasons why we are deserving of certain things, even if they aren't things that we actually truly believe in quite yet. I feel like, the more that you start to say it, it will kind of like have like, it'll kind of create like a shift and like turn the tables like in your mind or in your subconscious, and then maybe eventually you will start to believe in these things, even if it's not exactly like about you personally. It could be the way that you talk about the world around you, of course, like as anyone can see who has eyes or has information to like read the news. I personally don't. I try to stay away from the news, but it can definitely shift your worldview. And yes, there are people who are struggling and having a hard time, but I still feel like it's important for everyone to kind of like control their perception of the world or change the way that they perceive it. So I guess an example of that would be from going from, there's so many people struggling in this world, maybe changing your perception to there are so many people who are willing to help people who are in like a worse condition than them. Instead of looking at what the enemy or who you perceive the enemy to be, stop looking at the enemy and what they're doing and start looking and focusing on the people who are on your side and what they're doing to change things or make things better. I don't know, I guess these are like some things that you can do. I feel like it's going to be different for your personal situation. You can either ask yourself, is it like an internal thing or an external view of the world? But I think I'm going to wrap up this voiceover here. There's still quite a bit of video footage to go through. I forgot to mention that this build already is up on the gallery, so if you want to download it for yourself, you can. I will put my gallery ID in the description down below. Just make sure that when you do upload it that you have BB move objects turned on. Let me know in the comments if you run into any issues with this build. Like I mentioned, I haven't play tested it yet, so if I run into any issues, I'll try to change it and update the gallery. I don't even know, I was about to say like you can follow me on the gallery, but I don't even know if there's any real point to doing so, because I don't think you get like notifications from the people. Like if you follow people on the gallery, like do you get notified when they upload something onto the gallery? I don't really know what that's about. But yeah, I appreciate you so much if you made it to this point of the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.